What's going on, everybody? It's Cooper from the Backpins. I apologize for the delays. It's been pretty busy for me the last basically month, 6 weeks. So obviously, this isn't my full time gig. So hopefully, you guys can understand that there are going to be times it's hard for me to get a lot of content out just based on my schedule and things like that. But when I have the time, we'll definitely get some stuff out to you. Today, I want to start off by sending my condolences and prayers to the family of Ouncy Mitchell. I didn't know him super personally. I've seen him, met him maybe a couple times, but definitely saddened to hear what happened over the weekend. I know Zeke a little better than I knew Ouncy, and I definitely feel for those guys. Zeke was really tight with him. So definitely keep your thoughts and prayers with the Mitchell family as they're going through a tough time right now, no doubt about it. But moving on to the PBR Team Series, they were in Winston-Salem, North Carolina over the weekend for Cowboy Days. Home team didn't disappoint. They didn't quite get the big victory, but pretty good weekend for the Carolina Cowboys. They're going to roll into Oklahoma City this coming weekend for Freedom Fest. So we're rolling, and there's not a lot of time left in the season. 4 events left before Vegas hits. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how the seedings play out going down to Vegas. But don't forget to like or comment on any of the videos and subscribe to our channel. If you're watching, it takes 2 seconds, couple clicks, boom, you'll be notified when we put new videos up. So don't be afraid to do that. But we've got a lot to talk about. So let's quit messing around. Let's grab them slides. Let's talk PBR teams. To kick things off, let's just talk about Cowboy Days. The Oklahoma Freedom come out victorious. They go 3-0 on the weekend. That's a pretty good weekend for these guys. And this is what I expect out of this team. This team has struggled at times this year, no doubt about it. But I think they're getting about as healthy as they're probably going to be outside of Eli Vastbinder. I know he was banged up a little bit, but he got some bulls rolled over the weekend, and that's only going to help them out. You throw in Derek Kolbaba, Chase Outlaw, Briggs Madsen had a really good weekend as well, and Casey Roberts. These guys got enough young talent that they've hit on that these guys could really be good in a couple of years, in my opinion. You know, their veteran guys are not that old where you're going, shoot, you know, they could be retiring at any time. So I really like what Oklahoma has right now and what they've built. And I think the sky's the limit for this team when they show up ready to compete, ready to win. The home squad, the Carolina Cowboys, came just shy of tying with Oklahoma at 3-0. They lost their last game on Sunday. Dalen Swearingen did his job, just not enough bull. I shouldn't even say it that way. He rode his bull, but got in a little trouble at the end and didn't have enough points to pull it off in the walk-off scenario. But they go 2-1. They finish in second for the event. These guys are really good. And I'll tell you what, getting Cooper Davis in that lineup is a big deal for these guys. Cooper Davis, 3 for 3 on the weekend. The 2016 PBR World Champion was basically retired at one point this year, and that fire's still burning. He comes back, does what we expect Cooper Davis to do. And a big thing with the Freedom is they thought they were going to have that with Jess Lockwood. Lockwood gets hurt, so it doesn't come to fruition. But adding Cooper Davis to that Carolina Cowboys lineup, these guys are absolutely stacked. In my opinion, they're the front runners of this deal, and I expect them to be in that top four at every event they go to. Maybe the biggest surprise of Cowboy Days was the teams that finished in third and fourth. The Kansas City Outlaws take home third place. And look, this is a team I was wrong about. Earlier in the season, before the season started, I should say, I didn't think that these guys had a super great chance to really come in and compete. They're really young. They've got two big guns at the top in Dalton Castle and Kyler Oliver, but they obviously didn't have Kyler for the first 4 or 5 events. Can't remember when he exactly came back, but they're top heavy. And then Marcus Mast, what a free agent signing by JW Hart. Marcus Mast is sitting fifth in the MVP race. Let that sink in a little bit. The free agents that have made an impact in this deal, it's incredible to me. When you look at that MVP race, there's multiple free agents in the top 10. That shows that a front office is getting it done. They're going out there doing their homework. And I can't say enough good things about Marcus Mast and what he's done for the Kansas City Outlaws. And I think him and JW Hart mesh so well together. Great signing on their end. And the Texas Rattlers finishing fourth for their best finish of the season. Look, this is a team that it's tough for them. Let's be honest. They do have a lot of challenges they're facing. A lot of injuries to guys they drafted. etc. Ednei Kaminhas has been a shining star for these guys. Now, whether I think they should trade him, I kind of do, but he's getting it done, and he's definitely a catalyst on that squad. They went 1-2 on the weekend, and Kaminhas comes in clutch in the bonus round, 88 on Shake and Bake. If I'm not mistaken, Shake and Bake came from former guest on our podcast, Ty Ronaldo. He's now on a different truck, but great ride by Ednei, and at 47 years old, my goodness, like I've seen guys that ride into that age range, but they're generally not doing it at this level. He's at the highest level of the sport, and he's getting it done. You can't say anything bad about Ednei. I do think they should trade him, but I can see why they don't. He's clearly the go-to guy right now on that squad, in my opinion, outside of Cody Jesus. Let's take a look at the updated standings. Sitting at the top at 10-6, Carolina Cowboys. They also have the most bonus points acquired. They're riding 40% of their bulls. They're the favorites right now. If I could place a futures wager on them winning this deal, I would. That doesn't mean it's a lock. You get down to Vegas, anything can happen. Everybody gets to go. The bull draw down there is going to be crucial. But when you look at their starting five, if they stay healthy right now, it is so tough. They're so deep. Their top 4 guys are top 20 guys year in, year out. So they're they're loaded, they're stacked. There's 3 teams at 10-6. The Austin Gamblers are also there. They're sitting in second due to bonus points tiebreaker over the Ridge Riders. They're riding 35% of their bulls. But the big story for them right now is they're without Jose. And that's not going to be an extended thing, I don't believe. I would expect we'll see him back at some point. It's a rib injury from what I've read and understand. But that's a big deal for them because they're kind of built around him, which all these teams are built around their first round picks. Let's not kid ourselves. But the Gamblers' strategy to win is really Jose does his job. If we find 1 or 2 more guys to do their job, we're going to win. So without him there, that does definitely change their lineup for sure. Sitting in third, the Arizona Ridge Riders also at 10-6. They're riding 41.3% of their bulls. They're still leading the league in that category. And that's why they're sitting where they're at. Look, they're not the sexiest team. They're not the flashiest, but these guys get it done. They had a little bit of tough luck down there in Carolina, but I don't expect to see them continue that. They'll get back on track here, in my opinion. They just ride too many of their bulls. They're going to be a tough out in this playoffs format, no doubt about it. Sitting in fourth, the Missouri Thunder at 8-8, 27 bonus points on the year, 32.5% riding percentage. Losing Clayton Sellers hurts these guys, even though Sellers wasn't doing what we thought he was going to do. That's not a great thing for them, in my opinion. But these guys are gritty tough. They're not going to back down. They're going to keep competing every week. Sitting in fifth, the Oklahoma Freedom at 8-8, 22 bonus points. They're riding 30% of their bulls. And like I said, I think this team's on the rise. I don't see them staying down here in fifth. I think they're going to be a contender when we get to Vegas. They're riding really good right now. Their young guys are starting to get enough seasoning. This is going to be a tough squad to beat, in my opinion. And then the bottom 3, number 6, 7, and 8, the Kansas City Outlaws are in sixth at 7-9, 20.5 bonus points. They're riding 31.3% of their bulls. The Texas Rattlers, 5-11, 25 bonus points. They're riding 30% of their bulls. And this one is the biggest shock to me in this whole thing. The Nashville Stampede are sitting at the bottom of the pack at 4-12, 20 bonus points. They're riding 30% of their bulls. Justin McBride's got to be just frustrated as heck. You know, they did look pretty good on Sunday. They did end up beating the Carolina Cowboys at home. But when you look at it, they're just not consistently getting scores. And when they drafted Ka'iki Pacheco at number 2 overall, they're expecting him to ride close to 50%, if not more than that. And he just hasn't done that. I looked actually, and if you take it as a minimum of 5 outs, Silvano Alves and Matt Triplett have the highest riding percentage on their team. Now, granted, there's only 6 outs for each of those guys, but they're 3 for 6. So that's not good for Nashville. I can assure you it's just driving Justin McBride crazy, but I still think they're talented. You can't count these guys out. They're going to be a threat in Vegas. If things get turned around here, they could definitely make a late season push, no doubt about it. But let's take a break from this video for a couple seconds here, and let's talk about Rank Rad Fantasy. If you like the team series and the draft portion of the team series, you're going to love Rank Rad Fantasy. You get to put your general manager cap on and create your own team every week. Week in, week out, you can pick whoever you want as long as it's within the guidelines, the rules of the game. So if you want to take Jose Vitor Leme, have at her. You can have him any week. If you want to take a guy like Cooper Davis, Connor Halverson, You can take whoever you want. It's a fun way to engage yourself in the bull riding that weekend. I've played every week in 2022 for the individual season, and man, it's a blast. It makes it so much more fun when you have a guy you need to do well or a bull you need to do well, and vice versa. If a guy you don't have on your team does really well, it just makes it for more exciting. Play with your buddies, get a little group going, some side betting going on there. Bragging rights. That's why people like to compete, because they like to say, well, I'm better than you. I beat you at that or on that day. It's a great time. I can promise you will not be disappointed. You can find them at www.rankradfantasy.com. And I will link their social medias in the description below and at the end of this video. But let's get back to it. But speaking of updated standings, let's do a little bit of a tiered ranking type deal here. They do this in the NFL a lot. I'm going to call the top teams the blue chips, the middle group the red chips, and the last group the dark horses, because everybody does have a shot at this deal. In Vegas, it's all hands on deck. You got to get it done when it matters to win. So right now, the blue chips, which would be the elite teams, in my opinion, Carolina, Austin, Arizona, look, their records speak for themselves. These guys get a lot of Bulls road. They're going to be tough to beat. They are beatable, but it's not going to be easy. In my opinion, these are the three front runners right now. Until something changes, it's going to be tough to beat these guys. The red chips, which are teams that I would consider not quite on the same level as those guys, but these guys can still compete week in, week out. And on any given week, day, night, whatever you want to call it, they can get the job done. Like I mentioned earlier in the updated standings, why I think the Freedom are going to keep rising, and you just can't count Missouri out. Ross Coleman, Luke Snyder got those guys willing to fight for everything, every bull they get on. You just can't discount that. When you have that kind of effort coming in, they're never out of it. The dark horses, the Outlaws, Rattlers, and Stampede, I don't even think the Stampede should be down here, but their performance hasn't shown me that they're a strong contender right now. They're just not getting the job done at 4-12. They've got to find something different here. They've got to go back to the drawing board, and maybe we'll start to see different guys in that lineup. But right now, I cannot put Nashville in the red chip category based on current performance. But let's move into the upcoming Freedom Fest. It's going to be in Oklahoma City. Look, you're in the heart of bull country, so you know there's going to be some dang good bulls there, no doubt about it, which will make this a super interesting event to watch. I'm not going to get into what I think of the bullpens at these team events, but I will say this, it's easier to get the big bulls there, the big time buckers, when you're in Oklahoma City. There's a lot of those guys that are located really close to Oklahoma City. So I would imagine it's going to be a really deep bullpen. Night number one, the game schedules are the Nashville Stampede versus the Missouri Thunder, the Arizona Ridge Riders versus the Carolina Cowboys. That's going to be a really good game to watch. I'm excited to see what bulls get drawn into that one. The Kansas City Outlaws versus the Texas Rattlers. And in the last game of the night, the Austin Gamblers are going to take on the Oklahoma Freedom. That's a big game for the Freedom. They're sitting a few games behind Austin. That could really help them make up some ground in those standings. Moving on to night number two, the Kansas City Outlaws take on the Carolina Cowboys. The Arizona Ridge Riders take on the Missouri Thunder. The Nashville Stampede take on the Austin Gamblers. And the Texas Rattlers will take on the Oklahoma Freedom. Day three, the Arizona Ridge Riders are going to take on the Nashville Stampede. The Missouri Thunder take on the Kansas City Outlaws. Texas Rattlers take on the Austin Gamblers. And probably my favorite matchup of the weekend, the Carolina Cowboys are going to take on the home team, the Oklahoma Freedom. That is another big one for the Freedom, as obviously Carolina sits top of those standings. So the Freedom have a chance to make up some ground on some teams that are ahead of them this weekend. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out. Some themes I'm going to be looking for when I tune into the event. Will the Freedom fan base show up like Carolina? I thought Carolina had a really good atmosphere at their event from what I could tell on TV. The fans seem to be into it. The owners are right there by the arena, by the fence, and you could tell it was serious. They were wanting to win, and how can you blame them? So I'm intrigued to see if Oklahoma City is going to get that reaction as well. You're right in the heart of bull riding country. The tricky part about that is sometimes those fans know so much they don't really get excited about it unless you do something really crazy. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what the atmosphere is like in Oklahoma City. Another thing I'm going to be looking for is, I've already kind of touched on this, but Cooper Davis, man, 3 for 3 last weekend in a return. He'd been out for 7 months, I think it was. This guy really puts the Cowboys over the top. I'm not going to Not going to sugarcoat it. They look like they should win this deal. It's not a lock because bull draws in this thing are super important. Let's be honest. I'm just going to say this right now. If there was betting lines available on these, I'd have made a lot of money this year because bull draws are so important. And the way they set those lines, it's always going to be shaded to the favorite or the public's perception of who's good and who's not. So if you're willing to bet underdogs in this thing, there's a lot of money to be made, no doubt about it. But Cooper Davis, what he brings to Carolina, you've seen him before he was active or able to ride or compete in these events. He was basically like a second coach with Jerome Davis. So now you put him in the lineup. He still has that veteran coaching type presence, but he's flat out getting the job done. I'm excited to see what Cooper Davis does for the rest of this team series and moving on into the individual season in 2023. Another guy I'm real excited to see is Marcus Mast. He's really impressed me. Drops 25 pounds to make the squad to get signed. And what can you say about him? He is just gritty. He's not the flashiest. He's probably not going to put up a ton of 90-point rides, but I can tell you this, his head's going to stay in the middle and he's going to keep his hand shut. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, I would take a team full of Marcus Mast any day of the week, just based on that grit, effort, and just willingness to fight. He's going to fight for everything he can, and you got to give a guy credit for that. Last thing I'll say about Freedom Fest is there's only 4 events left. It's crunch time. If you're going to make a move to try to get into that top 3 or 4, it's got to happen now. You don't have much time left. Seedings are going to be somewhat important in Vegas, but like I said, everybody gets to go. So you have a chance no matter where you're sitting, but I do believe at least the top seed, if not the top 2 seeds, get buys. So obviously, if you're in that tournament, you want to buy, it saves on your body, all that. So it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of this regular season plays out, no doubt about it. But I think that'll be about it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't be afraid to like or comment on the video and let us know what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what we can do better, what we should talk about if you want to hear something different, etc. Things like that are great for comments or just general questions about the team series or opinions on what a team does as far as personnel, all that. Put them in the comments. We can get some discussion going down there. Don't be afraid to subscribe. If you're watching the video, 2 clicks and you're going to get notified when we put up new content. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, you guys have a great one. Come back and visit us again from the back pins.